Good morning, everyone. Loneliness appears to be an epidemic in the United States of America. We boast of how our new technology keeps us so connected. People email one another, text one another, we blog, we tweet, we use Facebook, yet none of this seems to suffice for face-to-face. Recently, the CEO of Google advised graduates to put down their cell phones, to turn off their computers, and have a face-to-face conversation with someone they love. Why? Because with all of this technology, more and more people are feeling alone. In a recent survey, it was estimated that over 44 million Americans sense that they are lonely. 35% of those in the survey said that they were chronically lonely, which is a jump of 15% in the last 10 years. The highest percentage of those suffering from loneliness are actually found in their 40s and 50s. And they come from all walks of life. So many people, maybe even you, feel alone. I believe that the message of today's solemnity, Corpus Christi, the most holy body and blood of the Lord, is to tell us that you and I are not alone. God never abandons us. Look at the first reading from the book of Exodus. God brings his people out of Egypt, out of the place of slavery, and through Moses leads them to Mount Sinai to form a covenant with them. In that ceremony of forming a covenant, blood from sacrificed animals are sprinkled on them. Blood is the symbol of life. And what forges this covenant between God and his people is life. God is saying to them, I will not abandon you. I have saved you from sin. I am linked to you now in a covenant of blood, of life, and I will be your source of life. Do not fear. Do not ever be afraid of being alone. You, my people, are my people, and I am your God. Moses says, this is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you. He never abandons his people. And then in the letter to the Hebrews, St. Paul tells us that God makes a final saving act and covenant not with the blood of goats and not with the blood of calves, but with his own blood. The blood of our God, Jesus Christ. At the Last Supper, Jesus himself takes bread, takes wine, and says, take it, this is my body. This is my blood of the covenant, which will be shed for many. God will not ever abandon us. And the belief in this miracle that we celebrate every Sunday, the miracle of the Eucharist, keeps us from being lonely. Do some of you remember, I think most of you will remember, the 1980 U.S. hockey team? They, of course, eventually won the gold medal, but along the way they beat the Russians. Do you remember that? I can remember it like it was yesterday. I was so excited as a kid to hear that we beat the Russians. And at the end of that great hockey game, Al Michaels, the announcer, asked the question, do you believe in miracles? Yes. That game is now called Miracle on Ice. But we have a greater miracle here at every Mass. A miracle not on ice, but a miracle on the altar, in which we take what is now on that table, ordinary bread and wine, And when it's brought to that altar and those same words of the Last Supper are said over those elements, they are no longer bread and wine, but the Lord's body and blood. It's not a symbol of Jesus. It is truly his real presence that is here on the altar, that continues in the tabernacle, and the message is, I am here, you are never alone. How do we explain this miracle on the altar? Well, we can't really explain it from a scientific point of view. If scientists were able to observe what happens here at Mass, they would say nothing changes. Because, as we know, and as theologians explain, the accidents or the appearances of the bread and wine don't change. The color stays the same, the taste stays the same, the size and texture is the same, yet what it is, its reality, changes. And it changes not by some scientific method, but by, if you will, a logic of love. When Jesus speaks of the Eucharist, he always speaks of it in very realistic terms. It is nothing other than the sacramental extension of his love poured out for us in the Incarnation across space and time. As he came to us 2,000 years ago, he continues to be with us because of divine love. Because he is God. And he is able to say, this is my body, and it becomes his body. This is my blood, and it becomes his blood. We use that long term that maybe you heard years ago in Catholic schools or in catechism, CCD, or prep. That long term transubstantiation. Do you remember it? Some of you, maybe. Do you remember I couldn't spell it when I was a kid, but I eventually was able to pronounce it. Transubstantiation. Meaning that the substance of the bread and wine changes, while the accidents, its appearances remain the same. This is the Lord's real presence among us. And he will never, ever abandon us. If the Lord at the beginning of time can say, let there be light, and light appears, can he not say, let this be my body, let this be my blood, and there it is. It's not just a comforting symbol, no. The Eucharist is not just something that brings forth a great memory of Jesus Christ. His words at the Last Supper, his words at every Mass, change reality. The Lord is truly here. The Chinese Archbishop Dominic Tung was imprisoned for 21 years for nothing more than being loyal to Christ and loyal to the one true faith. After 5 years of solitary confinement in a windowless, damp cell, his jailers came to Archbishop Tung and said to him that he could leave the jail for just a few hours and do whatever he wanted to do. Would he take a hot shower, change of clothes? Would he take a long walk outside? Or would he take advantage of the opportunity to contact family or friends or just someone outside his lonely cell? What would it be, the jailer asked. And Archbishop Tung replied, I want to say Mass. That was it. After 21 years and 5 of the last years in solitary confinement, he just wanted to say Mass. After years of being alone, Archbishop Tung longed for the real presence. His faith had sustained him by the knowledge that Christ had never abandoned him, that he was never alone, that he is truly present in the Blessed Sacrament, and he is always with us. This faith of Archbishop Tung is our faith as well. Just as he knew that the Lord would never abandon him, that he was truly present in the Eucharist, so too do we. We too are never alone, because the Lord is here.